is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those remote, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows for members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete your request to speak form. MAG can assist you with any questions that you may have. If you've parked in the garage, a validation stamp is available on the counter. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Raquel Schatz from City of Apache Junction. Sergeant Craig Martin from Arizona Department of Public Safety. Susan Anderson from ADOT.
Present.
Dr. Xiesong Zhao from Arizona State University. Ward Stanford from City of Avondale.
Here? Yes, here.
Thank you. John Willett from City of Buckeye. Alyssa Dahl from City of Chandler.
Good morning.
Thank you. Tessa Wessel from City of El Mirage. Kieran Jordan from Federal Highway Administration. Mike Sutton from Town of Gilbert. Ruben Lopez from City of Glendale. Hugh Begak from City of Goodyear.
Present.
Monir Zaman from City of Maricopa.
Good morning.
Joe Cartrell from Maricopa Department of Transportation. Micah Henry from City of Mesa.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Steve McKenzie from City of Peoria. Simon Ramos from City of Phoenix.
Morning.
Christopher Wanamaker from Pinal County Public Works. Julian Drisang from Town of Queen Creek.
Present.
John Huang, City of Scottsdale. Albert Garcia, City of Surprise.
Good morning.
Eli
Sorry,
Wolosin.
John Huang, City of Scottsdale is here. Sorry.
Thank you. Eli Wolosin, City of Tempe.
I'm here. Thanks.
Marty Zeke, Valley Metro.
Good morning, everyone.
I just see April Wire from McDOT is here as a proxy for Joe Cartrell.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, we have a forum.
Thank you. Our next item is the call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided to the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. Have we received any?
Mr. Vice Chair, we have not received any comments.
We received no call to the audience. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee members in advance to the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for a call to the audience?
Mr. Vice Chair, we have not received any written comments.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the MAG staff report. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by David Lucas, the new MAG ITS program manager.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the ITS committee. I have 4 updates to share today. The first one is on the TSOP evaluation. MAG is currently working with the Texas A&M Transportation Institute to evaluate the current MAG traffic signal optimization program and explore methods to help shape the program's future. An online survey has been launched to gather input from agencies across the region with the goal of better understanding local experiences, needs, and priorities related to signal timing and traffic operations. The survey deadline has been extended to May 9th to allow for more responses, so we encourage you to respond if you haven't already done so. Next is a regional systems management and operations plan. Kimberly Horn was selected as the consultant for this project, and we are currently working with them to finalize the scope and kick off the project in the next 30 days. Stakeholder input will be an important part of the updated plan development, so there'll be more to come. Next is ITS architecture. MAG has issued an RFP for an update to our ITS architecture and received a total of 2 proposals. The evaluation team met Monday, May 5th for consultant selection, and the results will be recommended for approval at next week's management committee meeting. And finally, we have the RCN assessment. MAG has executed a new task order with AECOM to review and evaluate the regional community network, which includes an exploration of using the RCN to provide broadband access. This project will document the history of the RCN, assess the RCN's current conditions, evaluate expanded service opportunities, and identify next steps for modernizing the RCN program and its governance model. This effort will involve stakeholder input through surveys and potentially interviews to understand the current and future needs of the RCN. The assessment is scheduled for completion by the end of September, so in the interim, no new connections or other modifications will be made to the RCN, with the focus on maintaining what is currently in place. Please reach out to me or David Worley with any issues during this time. Mr. Vice Chair, that completes my report.
Thank you, David. Our next item is the approval of the meeting minutes. Take a minute to review, and if there are any questions, please speak up. Does any member of the committee have any questions? Okay, hearing none. Prior to the approval of the meeting minutes, there's an opportunity for members of the public to comment. Have we received any?
Mr. Vice Chair, we have not received any comments on the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this agenda item?
I'll move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Ellie and a second from Susan. We will have those participating in the meeting online take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that we can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Aye.
Aye.
Members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
See Ellis Moore. I see that we got the vote from McDot. It's complete.
Okay, motion approved. Moving on to agenda item number 5, advancing pedestrian safety in Phoenix. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Dr. Ed Smaglik, Professor and Director of AZ Trans at the Northern Arizona University. Thank you, Dr. Smaglik. Do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry. I moved on. Dr. Smaglik, it's your floor is yours.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. This is a project that we wrapped up with City of Phoenix about a year or so ago, and happy to talk about it. Next slide, please. I think most of the folks in the room know what an LPI is, but just in case you don't, an LPI is designed to give pedestrians a little bit of a head start in crossing the roadway. So we hold the adjacent through vehicles red for 3 to 7 seconds to allow the pedestrians to establish themselves. And then we provide that green indication to that adjacent through movement. This reduces our pedestrian turning vehicle conflicts, and it's an FHWA proven safety countermeasure. Next slide, please. Already talked about this. Please go to the next slide. So the motivation for this project was that Phoenix desired some public-facing LPI implementation guidance. So we worked through literature review to see what else was out there as far as other agencies. We found two different types of guidance out there. There's prescriptive and descriptive. The former being really based on data from various sites on whether or not an LPI should be implemented, and the other one is more based upon engineering judgment and qualitative guidance. We conducted a crash analysis to help us identify sites for this. And then we collected data before and after LPI implementation, because the idea was to get thoughts on how users in the Phoenix metropolitan area respond to a leading pedestrian interval. We did some data analysis and modeling, and then we developed some guidelines. Next slide, please. So as I said, the site identification was done really through a crash analysis. We looked at crash data from 2016 to 2022, looking at pedestrian turning vehicle crashes. And we ranked them highest to lowest crash frequencies. And then we ended up with 7 different intersections that you see in the lower left hand corner that we chose for further analysis. Next slide, please. So the City of Phoenix had pedestrian motor vehicle counts done from 12 to 1 and 5 to 6 at all of these intersections. And we looked at pedestrian volumes, we looked at turning vehicle volumes, and we also looked at the cross product, right? So if I look at the figure, on the left, the crosswalk on the north leg, I've got 3 conflicting vehicle movements with that north crosswalk. So we use that cross product to get an idea of kind of the exposure that we would see. And cross product has been used before in traffic engineering, most notably for left turn warrants. So we wanted to make sure that the sites that we were going to collect data at would have activity. Right. Next slide, please. So here are all the different approaches from those various intersections. We didn't want more than 2 crosswalks at any one given intersection, and the legs at Washington and 3rd Street were chosen due to agency preference as well as the high pedestrian volumes, even though they didn't really fall into the top of this list. Next slide, please. All right, so here's an area view of the 4 crosswalks that we collected data at. Each crosswalk we refer to as a site. Next slide, please. So we avoided summertime for, those of us that live down there, obvious reasons, right? We wanted more people out there on the roadway. So our before phase was in November of 2023, and then the after phase was February to March of 2023. So we collected 10 hours of data each day, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. 8 10-hour segments of video before we installed the LPI along with the new traffic pattern ahead. In this work, we used a 5-second LPI. That's middle of the road of guidance that we found in the literature, and that was the agency preference here. And then we collected another 8 10-hour segments of video after the LPI was implemented. Next slide, please. Right, so we used PET, post-encroachment time, for our surrogate measure of safety in this work. So as you can see in the figure on the bottom of the screen, it's the time differential from when 2 users occupy the same conflicting space, right? So on the left side of that figure, I have, object 1 or vehicle 1 leaves the conflict zone, and then some time duration later, vehicle 2 enters that conflict zone. The difference in those times is our PET value. The idea of being that a smaller value, a lower PET value, indicates a higher severity of the conflict. Next slide, please. Right, so there's a short video on this slide if you want to play it. There you go. So this is just an example of a run-of-the-mill pedestrian motor vehicle conflict. The vehicle is stopped in the crosswalk and the pedestrian walked in front of it. Next slide, please. And this is how we pulled data from this. So we had a group of 4 different students that watched these videos. We provided instructions. We also did a number of trial data reduction, not scenarios, but we effectively had a master set of conflicts, and we worked through with our students until we were getting pretty close to the same data reduction. Right, so the students would need to jot down the timestamp for when the vehicle entered and left the conflict block, when the pedestrian did. So that gave us PET. We also looked at ped and vehicle speed. We counted pedestrian and vehicle volumes, directions, violations, and then there's some other demographics information that we collected, and that's on a later slide. All right, next slide, please. So looking at the summary of conflicts before and after, we see less than 1.5 second PET. We call that a high severity conflict. And then low severity conflicts are 3.5 to 5 seconds. Anything over 5 seconds we discarded. We just didn't include that as an interaction in our work. We did see a reduction in conflicts, and we also saw a reduction in high severity conflicts, although there was with a corresponding increase in low severity conflicts. Next slide, please. Right. Other characteristics that came out of this data set, we identified the mean vehicle speed and the mean pedestrian speed. We looked at from what direction the conflicts came from. Was it left or right turning vehicles? And which is the first unit in the crosswalk, whether it was the pedestrian or the vehicle. And there's for these metrics, there's some slight differences, but they're generally in the same range from the before and the after data set. Next slide, please. So we use that vehicle speed to further rank the severity of conflicts, the idea being that a short PET value coupled with a high vehicle speed, in this case, high meant a speed above the mean speed or above the median speed. And then so we ended up with 6 different conflict categories, one being the most severe, that's the high speed, low PET, low speed, and then so on and so forth, right? So we see a similar trend. We see a reduction in severe conflicts, reduction in conflicts overall, but then we also see an increase in some of the less severe conflicts. Okay, next slide, please. Other information we collected violations, evasive actions, whether a pedestrian was on a device, is there a crosswalk violation. We also looked at group size. Although I will say we did identify if we had a group of 6 or 7 people that walked in front of a car, that would be 7 conflicts. Each one of those was its own individual piece of data. We collected gender, age, and then additional mobility devices. So this could be it could be a wheelchair, it could be a walker, it could be a scooter, it could be something that, and of course, gender and age were identified through looking through the video you saw. So we did our best with what was provided to us. Next slide, please. All right, so we developed a negative binomial model. This is non-negative conflict data. And so we looked at a series of different models looking at all reduced conflicts, how this is obviously before the BET, so before the LPI was implemented to after the LPI. To try to model based upon various factors, how or why we saw the reduction in conflicts, high severity conflicts, and high severity, high speed conflicts. And we also did this with just a variety of different turning vehicle volumes. And so we worked through about a half dozen or so models, and we eventually settled upon a model that looked at reducing high severity of conflicts based upon turning vehicle volumes and pedestrian volumes. So we looked at obviously the outcomes of these models, but we also had kind of an eye towards what's going to be more implementable. If we require the city of Phoenix or whoever uses this to collect 8 different pieces of data to do this, it's going to be very tedious for an agency to manage that. So that's kind of why we went down the path that we did. Next slide, please. Right, so this is the equation that we went with. This is the only equation in the presentation, so you're welcome for that. Right, so what we see on the left side of this is we see without an LPI, the hourly predicted conflicts. Each trace line is the number of turning vehicle volumes from 25 up to 700. And on the x-axis, we see the hourly pedestrian crossing volume. So you see that as the hourly ped volume increases, we expect to see more and more conflicts when we have more and more turning vehicles. And on the right side in that figure, you see those lines are all pretty much compressed compared to the left, showing quite a reduction in conflicts, right? Next slide, please. Right, so summary of our conflict analysis. We saw the reduction that we kind of expected to see. We looked at a number of regression models, to model those conflicts to provide us, just some math to work with as we worked through our pedestrian or LPI guidelines. Right. Next slide, please. So this is the guidance, a flowchart that we provided to Phoenix. There's 3 parts of this. There's data collection, and there's a suitability worksheet, and then there's a suitability matrix. And I'll quickly walk through these. I think I've got about 3 minutes left. So next slide, please. Right, so data collection, we have data that needs to be collected that's on the intersection level. So we're looking at crash history, pedestrian volume, turning vehicle volume. Those 2 ped and turning vehicle volumes, those are directly used into that equation, or not with the data from that equation that I showed you from the modeling. Whether or not it's a T intersection, a one-way street, how close it is to a school or transit stop, whether or not there are set obstructions, and then what the level of service of the intersection, the vehicular level of service. Some of these came from the information comes directly from the work we did here. A lot of it comes from best practices that we found in our literature review. Right, so you think about behavior at a T intersection or a one-way street, right? So for vehicles that are going through or turning right, there's less conflicts coming towards them because of the geometry, right? So they behave a bit differently, so it could be riskier for pedestrians. So that's kind of where that came into play. Next slide, please. All right, next slide. All right, so we developed a score sheet for this. So based upon, where a various location falls into these various categories, we either increment points, or if, there's a big increase in travel delay with the LPI, then there could be a point or 2 deduction. Next slide, please. Next slide. Right. as well. So that this part here, this is the ped and turning vehicle volume I spoke about earlier. So this is directly from those plots I had a few slides back. So based upon the number of pedestrian and turning vehicles across a crosswalk, we allocate points for that. Next slide. Right. So we do this on a paired crosswalk basis. So we look at crosswalks C and D or A and B, because we work through the analysis in pairs, and based upon the score for those paired crosswalks, we look at really whether it's optional, considered, or recommended. And we chose these words very carefully. I mean, the reality is that LPIs reduce conflicts, and that's a good thing. However, the other side of that coin is that there's always limited budget. So as much as we'd like to put these in everywhere, there's going to be reasons why that may not be a favorable location. So we kind of chose those words carefully to provide the level of guidance that we felt would be usable for the city. Next slide. There's a lot of words on this. I learned a phrase this fall called wall of text, and that's really what this is. But effectively what it is a bunch of best practices for using this. A couple of things that are of note. One of the reasons we did this in pairs is that thinking about pedestrians that rely on APS devices. So APS devices are a recommendation to have when putting an LPI in, is that we want to make sure that we're sending consistent prompts from all four corners when the walk interval starts. Additionally, left turn protection should lag the through movement only, as drivers will tend to learn that if there's not pedestrians actually using the LPI, they're going to turn right through it, which is an issue as well. There's a few other things on here too. I'm not gonna read them to you. I think my time is up. So one more slide. All right, so limitations for this. The crash analysis was conducted at the intersection level and not the individual crosswalk level, and we did not have pedestrian volumes in the crash analysis. Conflict analysis, this was manual data reduction, so as great as our students are, mistakes are bound to happen. So that could have an impact on the analysis. Additionally, we were unable to get SPM data, so the event-based high fidelity data from the controllers for these locations. So the status of the traffic signal indications were pulled from the videos. So obviously lighting is a concern at some times of the day, so there's going to be some estimation on that as well. All right, next slide. So this has all the publications that have come from this. At the bottom of this is the full report with the link that's posted on Phoenix's website. Yeah, we've really happy about this project. I think it add a lot of value, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Ed, this is Ward Stanford with Avondale. I was curious, in the locations that you did these tests at, were they coordinated intersections, and did the cycle length accommodate the pedestrians there or not? And was the LPI actually the same cycle length, just moved forward in time, or was it a longer cycle length than previous or existing?
So we allowed Phoenix to handle that. We didn't get involved in that. So
Okay.
I don't know exactly how they fit in. I would expect they probably are coordinated locations just based upon the locations that we choose. You bring up a very good point though, in that, kind of working through this spreadsheet or this worksheet that we provided, you really need to do a level of service analysis with your preferred signal software along whatever coordinated corridor you're going to do, not just the one location. So it is a bit of a heavier lift than we originally anticipated for that, because obviously you can't just change one location if you want to keep things coordinated.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
Sure.
Ellie, you had a question?
No, if I can go ahead and
Oh,
address Ward's question as well. So those signals that were selected, they did remain in coordination. So the cycle lengths remain the same. Thus, that said, there's going to be some signals that are not going to be able to accommodate the cycle length. So we kept that in mind as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Simon. Ellie?
Hi, this is Ellie. I guess my question is more kind of theoretical. So I'm wondering, so we have several different locations in Tempe, at least, where there's a really high volume of pedestrians.
Mhm.
And I guess maybe a little bit counterintuitive. A lot of people are asking for LPIs there, but we don't get a single complaint that the pedestrians feel unsafe there. It's where we have a low volume of pedestrians kind of randomly throughout the day. And that's where the majority of our pedestrian crashes tend to happen. So I'm wondering, is there any guidance in the literature about whether this should be implied at high volume pedestrian crossings, low volume? Does it matter?
Great question. There certainly is safety in numbers,
Mhm.
right? And additionally, there's going to be, if drivers expect there to be pedestrians at a location, they're likely to be more cognizant of what's going on. I'm a runner, and I've ran in Phoenix many, many times in the outlying communities, and you're correct. That is that can be risky. That being said, we didn't delve into that within this work. I know when pedestrian volumes get high enough, you tend to look at ways to separate the movements in time, and that's not just for the pedestrian safety. It's also for motor vehicle operations, as you'll simply choke off those vehicular movements. But that's a good question. That could be part of analysis to look at. I guess it would come almost a meta analysis where I would look at locations that have information on ped volumes and vehicle volumes and the conflicts, and see if there's a point where there's kind of a diminishing returns on it.
Thanks, Ed.
Sure.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
If I may again, I can go ahead and share that the final report's available online on the Phoenix website. If not, you can get a copy from it directly from myself or Dr. Smaklik. There's also other elements within that report as well. So the pedestrian scramble, and then the study with the effectiveness and robustness of the touchless push button.
Great. Thanks, Simon. Any other questions? All right, Dr. Smaglik, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see y'all.
Moving on to agenda item number 6, Arizona Department of Transportation Wrong Way Vehicle Detection Program Update. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Susan Anderson, State Traffic Engineer at ADOT. Susan?
Well, thank you all. Yes, ADOT's been asked to come give an update on our wrong way vehicle detection program. So I'm very glad to be here at the ITS committee. Next slide, please. As you know, wrong way driving is kind of a national problem. ADOT's not exempt from all of that. We have our share here that we are definitely trying to address. And ADOT started off many years ago, did a number of studies. I know many of you are very familiar with those. Really looked at where those crashes were happening, what was causing them. And then, of course, as we were interested in understanding if there was technology out there that could be deployed to address this as countermeasures. Coming out of that, ADOT got support from MAG to develop a pilot on I-17. That was back in 2018, and it's been operational ever since. So thank you very much to MAG to help us with that. As we continue to use that pilot, we are learning a number of things from it. So we're trying to apply those lessons learned and enhance the systems as we move forward. Many of you here are familiar with the technology that is used. It is all pretty much centered around, we are using a thermal detection camera. That is that round ball in the middle there, if you haven't seen it up close. We also use our illuminated wrong way signs on the ramps. That's within the pilot area, as well as the use of cameras, dynamic message boards, and we'll actually put the ramp meters to red when we need to. Behind the scenes, we do have a decision support system that helps us with the dispatchers at ADOT and the DPS to actually activate the system as a whole. If you have not been out to the I-17 pilot corridor, this is kind of the layout that we've got. Many of the assembly is really just using traffic devices that we commonly use, but we've kind of arranged them uniquely here in order to identify wrong way vehicles. If they were to enter the off-ramp, we would detect that with a camera. The illuminated wrong way sign would light up. hoping to catch the wrong way vehicle and let them know like, hey, you're going the wrong way. We do hope that they would self-correct on the ramp. We have more cameras out on the main line to detect when they actually do hit the freeway segment. During this time, there's a video that is sent back to the TOC. That's where our dispatchers will review that. And if it is truly a wrong way vehicle, they will activate the whole system. That's the decision support system will be activated. That actually will automate some warning messages on our DMS signs, and it will also turn all the cameras to where that wrong way vehicle entered the freeway. So it helps with notifying DPS and keeping kind of some tracking mechanisms after that vehicle. The pilot, as we've come, our report will show, we have definitely, with the increased number of cameras out there, we are actually able to detect those wrong way vehicles. We are no longer reliant on just 911 calls. So yes, increased detection. We also have improved notification because now that we know about it, we can deploy DPS sooner and give them better notification as we move forward. So we did find through all of this, definitely with the wrong way signs and all, that there was a high percentage of drivers that did self-correct on the ramp. So that's kind of good news, if you will. The detection system, as we've been expanding it, you'll see I-17 there is covered in green dots. That's where the pilot is. As we've been moving along, you'll see the additional green dots throughout the map. We are trying to roll this out throughout the valley. We are doing that as we get funding available. We've had several projects, thank you to MAG, and several of our current construction projects that are underway. We, of course, are trying to get this detection at ramps as well as along the main line. Current projects that we have underway with MAG, we had 3 of them, as you'll recall, through the ITS committee we had approved. The first one was over on Loop 101, just between I-10 and Cardinals Way. That one is completed. The other one that was kind of to expand along it, deploying the cameras on our DMS boards all through Loop 101. That one actually has been completed around the whole corridor. Loop 202, as you saw on the previous map, all those yellow dots, that one's still in progress. We're underway trying to develop our plan for traffic control on that. Other projects is just as construction projects go along when we can deploy it with those projects. Some of the activities we've been undergoing in the past year, we have been making updates to our decision support system. This is kind of that brains, that back of the TOC that we're using to help with the automation of the cameras and the DMS boards with the warning messages. This is actually being expanded. It's no longer just the I-17 corridor. We have now expanded it out. We are rolling it out with all of the other detection devices we have throughout the state. Most of that's here in the Phoenix Valley. That deployment right now is this map. I'm sorry, I do not know the color coding, but it has to do with the integration into that system. So it means something to our IT folks. But the original corridor was just the I-17. We are now adding about 230 additional sites to that decision support system. And with that, we're finding that we're saving about 20 seconds, which is huge in the world of emergency response. We want to be able to deploy DPS as soon as we can. So this system definitely allows us to provide more accurate information to DPS and expedite those enforcement activities. Another huge activity at ADOT side that really the public doesn't get to see, but we've got more performance dashboards that we're using. This one just showing kind of the monthly numbers of how many incursions are happening and how many are actually hitting the main line. You'll see that even though it shows we're increasing over time, that is because our detection out there in the field is actually increasing over time as well. In December, this last month, we had 75 incursions. 7 of those actually did make the main line. So we're finding right around that 10% mark is of the number of that start out as wrong way events, about 10% make it onto the main line. So that's where we're concentrating our efforts these days. This shows a little bit more about the number of wrong way detection devices we have deployed. That's that gray bars in the background there. We have over 300 now. And you'll see over time that definitely the number of incursions going up with the increase in number of devices. The yellow is the total. The green is how many actually self-correct. And then you'll see right down there at the bottom is about the 10% that actually do hit the main line. So we're keeping track of all of this, not only as a total for the system-wide, but we're also looking at corridor level. So just like we use heat maps for other activities, we are using it now for wrong way to understand which corridors are experiencing the most number of wrong way events versus if there's particular hotspots, which helps us understand if there's a particular interchange that we need to go look at. We'll look at traffic striping, signage. Maybe there's something else that we need to look at, signals, looking for those other traffic engineering solutions if we can. And of course, as we continue to roll out more devices, our operations and maintenance crews continue to have more of a heavy lift on our side. So we're finding that there's definitely more need to maintain this and monitor it over time, just because we've got more and more on their plate. We have taken this as an opportunity to develop an operations plan that we are continuing to use to train the TOC dispatchers to understand kind of standard work on how to deploy this, how to monitor it, how we're verifying it, and we're continuing to do training with our staff. So all of this is helping us to coordinate better with DPS and between the TOC dispatchers and their dispatchers. So with all of that, ADOT's continuing to learn from that original pilot and continuing to deploy countermeasures where we can. We want to continue learning from all of our activities. We have a number of projects that we're looking to continue to roll that out. But we do know that this has been a successful project in our mind. And so we look forward to having more benefits and lessons learned that we'll continue to share. So with that, the pilot study, the final report is published out on the ADOT website. So feel free to check that out. If you have any further questions, definitely reach out to myself or Mark DeLute at the TOC. We'd be happy to help. That was it. So open to any questions anyone has.
I have a question. Oh, Susan. Is ADOT going to be looking at opportunities for connected vehicle technology to couple with the wrong way driver?
We are. We're looking at a number of things. Particularly, we're also looking at some AI functions as well. So I think we're open to what is available out there. We just haven't delved in as much as we want to in the research.
Susan, this is David. I was curious if there's been any major modifications or over the course of the pilot, have there been changes to the systems, to the detection systems that you're using, things like that, maybe that the vendor has, made changes and improvements over time?
Actually, that is true because the detection camera itself has actually undergone some modifications and it's gotten more capabilities, if you will. So they actually have AI functions now that we're testing out at a few locations. So we're interested in upgrading some of that as we go back. And we know that definitely the I-17 corridor, of course, that's the first area that we're probably going to come up on kind of end of life of those devices. We're kind of watching them carefully, but we see an opportunity probably to upgrade as we go around and find out more about that technology.
Susan, this is Micah Henry with Mesa. Excellent presentation. I've got two questions. The first one is, did you guys have any statistics on drivers under the influence for ones that were caught?
Actually, DPS maintains that information. So unfortunately, ADOT doesn't have it, but I do know that every year DPS publishes their own reporting on wrong way vehicles as well. And they do keep some of that because I've seen it one year that I was like, oh, they actually do go interview kind of the wrong way driver to find out what was happening. So they have more information on that. So if you're interested, I can try to point you in the direction of the right person to talk there.
That's okay. I was just wondering if you had it offhand. The other one's kind of a big piggyback on the earlier question. For maintenance, have you guys had any recurring issues with your infrared cameras?
I'm not aware of any. Most of the maintenance is more from the cameras will actually get loose. They'll come loose with a big storm that comes through or something. So it starts to cause shaking on our side. So the feed comes in shaky and it'll cause a lot of false alarms. So that's one of our major issues. But other than that, I'm not aware of any.
Pretty cool. Just as an aside, City Mesa has been deploying arrows at the diamond interchanges on Loop 202 and US 60, where the near side indication is going from a green ball to a steady up arrow. As this is a project we identified. Marty Lauber has been leading that for City Mesa, but we've been deploying that on the near side and putting it for the lanes that are adjacent to the furthest left on the approach. And we are looking at continuing this effort for the far side deployment as well. Just wanted to throw that out. So thanks, Susan.
I had a quick question. I was wondering if ADOT has any statistics on geometry type of the interchange and whether there are any that are kind of standing out as more frequently getting runway.
Yeah, we did look at the geometry, particularly with the I-17 pilot, to try to understand if there was like, hey, this has happened more at Spuies versus Diamonds. We honestly did not find a difference. So there was no particular interchange type that had higher or lower volumes or of these events. So.
Hello, Susan. This is
Go ahead.
Yunbing from ASU. I just have two quick questions. Thank you for the presentation, by the way. The first question is for the chart that you show the number of detected runways over time, and then there's a huge increase. Is that mainly due to the detection systems being improved, and there was some false detection before, false negative detection before that wasn't successfully detected?
Yeah, that increase over time is really because we've deployed more and more of these thermal cameras throughout the valley. So we started out with a few on I-17, but now we're starting to get more coverage throughout the whole Phoenix area. So as we get more essentially eyes on the road, we are able to identify more of these events happening.
Gotcha. The second question is, does ADOT have any sense in terms of like maybe the average time or delays between a runway event has been detected and to the DPS intervention? Like how long does it typically take for the DPS to go to the site and intervene?
Oh, I want to say I don't believe ADOT is collecting that, although I do believe yes does, because that was also part of their report. A lot of that depends upon where they're starting from as well. So if they're nearby, they can be there pretty quick, and if not, they might take them a little while. So it's all in their response pattern.
Got it. Thank you, Susan.
Any other questions for Susan? Okay, hearing none.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Moving on to number 7, request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the membership for an agenda item on future agenda? Hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. So moving around, we'll start with Simon.
No updates from Phoenix.
Queen Creek. ADOT.
Nothing for me.
Tempe.
Nope, nothing right now.
I will provide for surprise. So we, within the last 6 to 8 weeks, kicked off our very first transportation master plan. So we have begun the beginning stages of that. We do have stakeholder meetings scheduled for next week for outward engagement with the public. I don't know the exact timeline of that, but I do know that it's a fast-paced project. So we'll hopefully have that wrapped up here in the next several months. Online.
Hey, Albert, this is Micah with City Mesa. I wanted to let everyone know that we've deployed Econolite EOS controllers on the light rail alignment in Mesa, and we've had really good success with that deployment effort. We started at the end of February and got we have about 34 intersections that are on the alignment. Got all the installations done through mid-March, and then we've been fine-tuning and adjusting and basically using the information we've gotten from previous TSOP, along with participation in another Valley Metro project, to kind of fine tune and make sure that we're addressing the current needs. So we've had really good success with that, and we're still working with Econolite on some of the things that we're seeing out in the field. But it's been a very interesting project that we're happy with so far.
Thanks, Micah. Just a follow-up question on that. Is the EOS software on Econolite controllers, or are you guys running on a different controller?
They're on Econolite controllers.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a Cobalt with EOS.
Micah, this is Ward with Avondale. Have you seen things you like more in the EOS software versus the previous ASC3?
They've cleaned it up. It's still developed by a software guy and not really a transportation engineer guy, but I'm okay with it. They've merged some things to make it, I guess, more cohesive. Obviously, the controller itself is still flexible, i.e. complex, but going forward, we are going to be using EOS, so we can have we'll have the EOS firmware on our controllers going forward. It's the next one, so keep on trucking.
I understand that they might handle pedestrians a little bit different, whether it's a big difference or not, but maybe give us a little bit better effort at not breaking coordination where we don't accommodate. But I've not tested that yet, just hearing that story.
Right. I know that we have noticed some with the signal. It's slipping my mind. The signal priority that that light rail is using through the EOS. We've noticed it. There's different levels of priority that you can assign to it, and we've been modifying that to see how that impacts operations, both for light rail and for vehicles. And we know that, we were kind of attempting to minimize the cycle length with regards to what we can get away with pedestrian, the pedestrians at these intersections. And it was a really tight fit. So that's one of the things that we're looking at for what we're looking at moving forward is what level of transition are we happy with and capable of handling.
Thanks, Micah.
Sure.
Is there any other agency updates from those online?
Ward with Avondale. We've been working on a TSOP project retiming Avondale Boulevard from Thomas down to Lower Buckeye, and it's progressing quickly and probably should be implementing late this week, testing next week, and so getting to a close. But so far showing positive, hopeful synchro files. That's all.
Thanks, Ward. Anybody else? Okay, if that's all there is, the meeting is adjourned. The next meeting of the ITS committee will be on Wednesday, July 9th at 10 a.m. Thank you, everybody.